Good morning, Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Marianne Atwell Hardy, and I'm so glad that you have joined us. We're streaming today from the TCSL 2022 Meditation Retreat Weekend, which has been amazing. Just one different type of meditation after another. So I welcome you to this part because God speaks in the stillness, and that's what we're going to be doing for this meditation. So I'd like you to just settle into wherever you are. Get comfortable. Do whatever it takes just to ground yourself. Open your heart, open your mind. And first I'm going to do a reading, and then we'll get quiet, and then we'll come out of the meditation after about 15 minutes. So again, just wiggle around, get still. Take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Take another deep breath in. And slowly let it out. And today's reading is from Ernest Holmes. From Psalm 91, verse 2, I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him I will trust. At the center of my being is peace. That peace that is felt in the coolness of early evening, after workers have returned from their labor and the first star shines in the soft light of a translucent sky. There's a freshness, a vitality, a power underlying this peace. It broods over the earth quietly, tenderly, as a mother watches over her sleeping baby. In this peace that holds me so gently, I feel strength and a protection from all fear, all anxieties. It is the peace of God, and underneath it all, I feel the love of the Holy Presence. As I become more conscious of this love, all lack, all fear, all that is false slips away as mists fade in the morning sunshine. I am one with deep, abiding peace, and I know that all is well. I know that as I permit this peace to flow through my being and through my mind and heart, every problem is released. The way is made clear before me, and it is filled with joy and harmony. I am peace. I am love. I am power. I am vitality and strength, and all good. Where I am, there is peace. So if you will get quiet and go within, join us from here at St. Francis Springs. We will join our hearts and minds in the stillness, in the quiet. focusing on that peace that found in the stillness, keeping your heart, your mind, your ears open to whatever is yours to receive. I invite you now to just gently come back into the room, wherever you are. And if you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes or not. And I just want to thank you for being part of setting the stage, creating the container for the service that will unfold in 15 minutes. So we will see you again at 10:15. Thank you. Namaste.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. Actually, we today are streaming live from our meditation retreat at the St. Francis Springs Prayer Center in Stoneville, North Carolina. I'm really just happy that you've joined us, because it now feels like our meditation retreat participation has just grown. And we all know what happens whenever two or more are gathered, that everything that we do, and everybody's nodding here in our sanctuary this morning, because they have felt that over the last couple of days, that everything that we do whenever two or more are gathered is just deepened and expanded and really brought into a greater expression by just having everybody practicing together. So we're so glad that you've joined us. Thank you very much for inviting us into your living rooms today. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Dusty Rippelmeyer, and I have the honor and the privilege of being this community's spiritual director. We are part of a larger organization called Centers for Spiritual Living, and Centers for Spiritual Living believe that there is one power and presence. Now, I happen to call it God, but it can go by many different names, and that this power and presence is the very essence of peace, of joy, of creativity, of love, of freedom, of grace and abundance, all things good. It's not some being on a cloud someplace with a long white beard doling out punishments and favors at whim, but really an energy that is within us, that is always there, always available, always ready and willing to give us the kingdom of heaven on earth. What we also believe about this presence is that it is creative. It is that which created everything that there is, everything that's seen and unseen. And because we were created in its image and likeness, we too have an ability to create. And in fact, we have been creating all of our lives, whether we're aware of it or not. So the issue, however, is, have we been doing that consciously, or have we been doing that unconsciously? Now, I think for the most part, until we really begin to understand this teaching, it has been unconscious. But the really good news is that we can become more conscious of it. And because we can become more conscious of just what we're saying, just what we're thinking, just what we're believing, the choices that we make, then we have an ability to change them. And by changing them, we can change what we manifest in the world. We can change our thinking and change our lives. And I think that that's a really magnificent thing to know and a magnificent thing to step into. Now, we gather together on Sundays for sure, and then online on Wednesdays, and we have classes and other social activities. But we do that so that we can support each other as we walk this spiritual path. We can do that so that we can remember the truth about each other when we ourselves are having a hard time doing that. And so we love knowing that you're out there. We feel your support, and we're just grateful that you've invited us to join you today. So tomorrow is Memorial Day. And so I would like to take a moment, just a moment of silence, to really honor all of the service men and women who have lost their lives in any of the wars or conflicts that we have had been a part of in this country throughout time. So if we could just take a moment, go within, really honor them by remembering them and really being grateful for them in this moment. So on behalf of everyone, I just say thank you. Thank you for your service. You're great, and we're appreciative of your sacrifice. So thank you so very much. I would also like to take another moment of silence for all of the victims and their families of the Uvalde mass shooting. We hold all of them in our hearts and know that even as they are moving through their grief and might not be aware of it, that peace is right where they are, and that we are surrounding them with our love and our awareness in this moment. So please, a moment of silence for all of the victims and their families. Our hearts and our prayers go out to everyone who has been touched in any way by this tragic event. Thank you all for your loving support. Speaking of thank yous, I would love to take a moment to thank Marianne Hardy for her beautiful meditation that really created and deepened the container for this service to unfold within. So thank you so very much, Marianne. And speaking of Marianne, I would love for everyone to welcome her back to the podium. Marianne Hardy.
Hello again. The theme for the year 2022 is Living Everyday Wonder. Our theme for the month of May is Emotions. And Rev Dusty's talk title is Low Tide or High Tide. I'm now going to read this community's purpose statement, which is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives and to being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we're here for God. And now just taking another moment to center yourself. Open your heart, open your mind. Open your ears for whatever will come next. And to do this, I want you to just listen to the healing sounds of the crystal bowls and let the sounds wash over you.
All right, and now I invite everyone to return to your body, return to the room, and open your eyes. My name is Carol Cross. I'm another practitioner here at TCSL, and it is also my honor to be with you this morning. We're going to start with one of our favorite rituals. The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living honors the diversity and threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths, as represented by this ceremony. Please welcome our volunteers today, 4 beautiful souls who've been part of our meditation retreat this weekend. And that's Della, Chosen, Kathy, and Gail. Thank you for serving with us today. So, Christianity is the path of Christ consciousness, love, and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by spiritual law. Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of submission to the will of God, the highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of ultimate reality. Native American practice and shamanic traditions are the paths of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Science of mind and spirit is the path of the divine principle of love and law. And the heart represents the one heart, the one love that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere, with no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths. And so it is. Thank you all so much. So now I would invite you to close your outer eyes as I say a word of blessing on today's event. And going within, we always say, as within, so without. But this weekend, it feels particularly that way because the retreat has been so full of what I so often have to look for inside because I'm not finding it outside. So going within, I know that I am peace, and so are you. I am wisdom, and so are you. I am joy, and so are you. I am power, and so are you. I am all things good, and so are you. And I am one with the one that is behind, within, around, about everything in this universe. Every person, every animal, every rock, every vibration. It is all from the one source. And so am I, and so are you. And by you, I mean those who are in the room, those who join us electronically, either now or in the future, all of our community, all of our people, all beings everywhere. I am one with everyone, and so are you. So I say a word of blessing on the incredible staff here at St. Francis Springs who have held us in their hearts with such loving kindness. I say a word of blessing on all of the volunteers who have helped to set up and do all sorts of behind the scenes things here for today's service. I say a word of blessing on Mary Ann, who's not only her words, but her very consciousness helped center this entire service. A word of blessing on our wonderful AV team, Heather and Ava, who took the show on the road with such grace and equanimity. A word of blessing on our musicians, Miles and Letha Costin, who will take all of the wisdom that we've found from the singing of the birds and translate it into human form. And I say a word of blessing on our beloved Reverend Dusty, who today I know speaks with the tongue of spirit and with the heart of the divine Mother Father. And so, from that place, oh no, I forgot the most important. I say a word of blessing on every one of you, because every one of you thread your individual threads into the basket that is this event, because this is an activity of co-creation. And every one of you is adding your spark to our giant light for today. So I am so excited to get it going. I'm so grateful for all of these people. I'm so grateful for this community. I'm so grateful for so much. I don't want to get into it all. So I'm just going to take the fast route, turn it over to God, where what we say makes it true, and ask you to affirm it with me with our words, and so it is. Okay, now, the reading for today is unknown. However, it's a great reading anyway. It says, life is not for the faint of heart. It is a roller coaster of epic proportion. There is a natural ebb and flow to everything. When we are in flow, life is glorious. When we are in the ebb, life can feel tender and challenging. Wherever you are on the continuum of life, bless this very moment. It has required much courage and tenacity to make it to today. If you're in the flow, enjoy the grace it brings. If you're in the ebb, know that tomorrow brings the opportunity for a brighter experience of the world. So, to kick off our service portion, we start with the incredible Miles and Letha Costin, who always go the extra mile, but this weekend it's been literally, because they've driven all the way up here so that they could be with us in person. And you'll know why it's worth our time, at least. They did so. Thank you so much, Miles and Letha.
I'm waiting deep waters trying to get home. Well, I'm waiting deep waters, waiting deep waters, waiting deep waters trying to get home. Well, I'm walking deep valleys trying to get home. Well, I'm walking deep valleys, walking deep valleys, walking deep valleys trying to get home. I'm climbing high mountains trying to get home. I'm climbing high mountains trying to get home. Climbing high mountains, climbing high mountains. I'm climbing high mountains trying to get home. Wading deep waters, trying to get home. Wading deep waters, trying to get home. Wading deep waters, wading deep waters. Well, I'm wading deep waters, trying to get home. Trying to get home. Trying to get home. Trying to get home.
Ooh, so thank you so very much, Miles and Letha, not only for that absolutely beautiful and perfect song, but also for taking the time to drive up from the Triangle area to join us. They came yesterday late afternoon and played with us last night for one of our sessions, and laughed very hard during game night after that. So we're very glad to have them with us today. So thank you so very much. Hi, everybody. So when I first read this talk title, I was very happy. And I was very happy because I love everything about water. And I find any metaphor that has anything to do with water very intriguing. I find it very interesting, and I seem to always be really drawn to them. I've had this connection with water all of my life. The most sacred places for me are those that have an element of water within them. So the beach, right? The sun warming the sand and that surf caressing the shoreline. You know, not everyone knows this, but well, perhaps they're going to in a minute, is that, I have a tattoo of a couple of beach chairs and a beach umbrella. So I bring that sense of peace with me everywhere I go. Or it could be a mountain stream that's gently or not so gently flowing over and around boulders and branches as it makes its way down the mountainside. Or perhaps it's a big, wide, lazy river as it flows from its source down to its mouth. It could be the sunlight dancing on the surface of a still lake. or perhaps the healing welcome of a long, deeply drawn bath at the end of the day. I know for myself, my deepest communication that I have had so far in my life with the divine has been while I've been taking a shower. So clearly, I have this relationship with water. So I'm very happy to be talking about it today. And as I began to sit with the title, a number of thoughts and metaphors came to me. And the first one was this whole idea of really being in the flow of life, or of life being equated with flowing like a river. So consider a river that twists and turns and moves around those boulders and those rocks and those branches. The water flows effortlessly. Would you agree? So it doesn't stop when it hits a rock. It just finds a way to flow around it. So what we learn from this is to be more like a river, to be more like water, and to just let things flow. Life will inevitably present us with obstacles from time to time. So instead of fighting the current, the invitation is to just take a little detour and to go with the flow. When we get stuck, it's often because we are refusing or clinging so hard to that which we think that we want in our lives that we simply can't let it go. But if we could let it go, if we could allow it to transform into something different, then that would allow us to be more like the water and to just flow. Eric Butterworth, in his book, In the Flow of Life, says, life is a flowing experience and the only certainty is change. In fear and in greed, in joy and in sadness, there is a human tendency to hold on. When life is equated with things or with relationships or with moments of fulfillment, the threat of their loss or change is sometimes too much to endure. Thus, the discovery of the flow of life is the greatest awakening of consciousness that we could ever achieve. Now, sitting there or sitting out there, can you just imagine how peaceful the experience of life would be if we could simply be in it without so many judgments, or without so many expectations, or without so many demands that life shows up for us in any one particular way? Wouldn't it be peaceful to really grasp on a soul level that we can bask in the highs, aware of our co-creation with God, and know that even more good is actually possible for us, and that we are able to actually stay present in the lows while allowing the healing or embodying the wisdom that is actually available to each and every single one of us in that moment. To be in the experience of either side of the coin with equal ease and grace, without clinging to either the highs or getting stuck in the lows. Wayne Dyer, in his translation of the 78th verse of the Tao, a verse that he titles Living Like Water, talks about three characteristics of water, three ways in which we can be more like water. And if we were to do so, then our lives and the lives of those around us would be much more peaceful. In the first, he says, overcome the unyielding parts of life by yielding. Hard and rigid are overcome by the relentless application of gentle things, such as water's soft flow or steady drip. So be persistently gentle and willing to surrender, and watch the resistance of the harsh and the implacable wear away. You can see that in your mind's eye, yes? So the invitation is to think about the people in our lives that are, perhaps a little crusty. You know the ones I'm talking about. The ones that have a lot of walls and barriers up between themselves and the people in their lives. So perhaps you could think about making the choice to meet them with a steady drip of kindness and compassion. A steady drip of kindness and compassion, and soon their hard exterior, I promise you, their hard exterior will be worn away by the relentless application of our love. I've seen it happen time and time again. Or maybe we found ourselves in the middle of a work situation in which there was a lot of stress and negativity and gossip. I'm sure that's never happened to any of you in here or out there, but think about the possibility that your coworkers are embroiled in a lot of stress and negativity and gossip, and you choose to just show up every day with a positive attitude, ready and willing to be in the midst of all of that in a really powerful way, and not fall into that hole of negativity, and not fall into that tendency to gossip, to join them at the water cooler, but instead to do it differently, and to recognize that over time, people will begin to seek out your company. They will recognize that you have something they want. And then they begin to become friendlier, not only with you, but with each other, and the workplace becomes peaceful and calm. Carol mentioned from the inside out. It begins with us, and the invitation is to be more like water. The second idea he speaks to is water appears to be something you could easily overpower. However, it is so flexible that once you push it out of the way, it will find its own level below all strong things and patiently enter where nothing solid can block its resting place. Put up barricades, erect levees, and make everything waterproof. But yet, with enough passage of time, the flexible quality of water will triumph. The weak overcome the strong is a powerful message for you. Remember to stay flexible, willing to lower yourself in humility, knowing that you are in harmony with the Tao. I think I had an amen. I'm not sure, but I think so. Now, when I first read this quote, my mind immediately went to Emmett Fox's metaphysical interpretation of the third beatitude. And the third beatitude says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." And you're kind of like, what? Because we have this idea now about that word meek. And I'll tell you, it's not very flattering. It is not very flattering, but the metaphysical significance of Jesus using this word meek is a combination of open-mindedness, the faith of God, and a realization that the will of God for us is something joyous and something interesting and something vital and so much bigger and grander than we could ever imagine for ourselves. That's a whole new way of looking at that idea, that word, meek. but with this as the context of our life. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. No matter what our human perceptions are telling us, we can know. We can absolutely know beyond a shadow of a doubt that divine wisdom, divine right action, and divine right timing are at play everywhere at all times. The invitation is to be more like water. And finally, Wayne Dyer says, water is so soft that it cannot be harmed, damaged, or destroyed. It simply returns to its source to be used over and over again. Boil it until it disappears and its vapors enter the atmosphere, ultimately to return. Drink it, and it returns after nourishing your body. Pollute it, and it will return after enough passage of time to become purified nourishment again. This is all accomplished because of the element's mutable softness. The idea is for each of us to trust our innate gentle selves, to be patient rather than controlling and manipulative, to be soft, to hang back, and to allow the gentle side of ourselves to lead the way, to allow that gentle self to step into the room in front of us. When we stay soft, we will be indestructible. The invitation is to give up being rigid and hard and interfering and needing to be right, and to simply opt instead to flow like a river, gently and softly as the peaceful presence that we truly are at our very core. The invitation is to be more like water. The second metaphor that I thought about is a little bit more in direct alignment with the talk title itself, low tide or high tide. The tide introduces the vertical movement of the sea. It's surely significant, although not necessarily productive, that we naturally tend to speak about the emotions that we experience in our lives in terms of highs and lows. In this, the tide joins many other natural metaphors that we use to describe our high moods and our low moods, right? High tide typically represents hope and opportunity, and low tide usually stands for the loss of these things. The tidal metaphor provides really a useful safety valve for our emotions, because we know that vertical movement is both regular and cyclical. Regular and cyclical. It can be a comfort when we feel low, because we know that the high tide will come. It provides a salutary check when we are in high spirits, reminding us that sustained euphoria cannot last. The bottom line is that the tide is a dynamic force. It's not only the extremes of high and low that characterize its role in our life, but the transitions between the two, the flood and the ebb. That, however, brings up a whole new conversation. So if you think about it, and you don't even have to think too hard, because I'm going to talk about it. But our use of the tide as a metaphor has actually changed over the years. It's changed and it's shifted in probably ways that have done us a little bit of a disservice, right? So we've forgotten that those tides are a cyclical phenomenon in which each station and action is bound to recur again and again and again and again. Instead, the flood becomes this one-off cataclysm. So, for example, think about all of the times you've heard someone on the news warn of a flood of cheap imports into this country. A one-off cataclysm. On the other hand, the ebb is seen as a terminal loss of opportunity. A terminal loss of opportunity. When we say that the hopes of finding survivors after an earthquake or a similar disaster are ebbing away, what's really being seen is that hope is lost. If the chances of a successful outcome of a summit meeting are ebbing away, what is typically meant is that the chance will not come again. But if we were to be really more precise about it, really thinking about what we're saying and what we're meaning by what we're saying, if we were to be more precise about it, we would actually be suggesting the opposite is true. That another chance, just as good or perhaps even better, will come along soon. That's the way of the tides. Another chance, this good or perhaps even better, is on its way. There's a legend about an Eastern monarch plagued by worries and harassed at every turn, who calls his counselors and his wise men together. He asks them to formulate a motto, a few wise words that would help him in times of trial or distress. So it must be brief enough, he told them, to be engraved on a ring so that he could always have it before his eyes. It must be appropriate for every single situation, whether in prosperity or in adversity. It must be a motto wise and true and endlessly enduring. Words that a person could be guided by for their entire life. The counselors and the wise men went off and they debated and they reasoned and, of course, they meditated and prayed. Finally, they came back to the monarch with the magic words, words for every change or chance, words to fit all situations, words to ease the heart and the mind in all circumstances. The words that were engraved on the ring were these: "This too shall pass. This too shall pass." But really, I have to tell you, I digress. The theme for the month of May has been emotions. And we've talked about fear. Carol talked about fear. I talked about happiness, talked about anger, and today we're taking a dive into sadness. Sadness is a primary emotion that we all feel from time to time. It can be mood altering, and it's triggered by a variety of other emotions and situations. Sadness can cause us to feel blue or melancholy. Or it can cause us to want to be alone. Or it can cause us to appear to seem disinterested. Or it can cause us to be down in the dumps with despair. We can feel frustrated that there is no end to it in sight. Or really disappointed that things didn't turn out differently. Sadness can snowball into depression and become gripping and even crippling. The best cure for sadness is to allow the waves to wash over us and to pass. Surrender is the greatest practice in the midst of sadness. The invitation is to try to find a space of love and compassion for ourselves. To be easy and gentle when in that space of sadness, instead of berating ourselves for being sad. You know, if I was a better science of mind practitioner, I wouldn't be so sad. But the only thing that does is to make us even sadder. The trio of guilt and blame and shame can often emerge from a space of sadness, or it gets all intermingled with it, right? We feel guilty when we've done something that we regret. When we feel guilt, it can make us sad. We place blame when we're not willing to look at our part in the situation and take accountability for our actions. However, when we choose to blame others or even ourselves, it can make us sad. We feel shame when we've done or said something that could quite possibly be considered inappropriate. When we feel shame, it can make us sad. This trio and this experience of sadness can all be intermingled. And in fact, they often come as a very packaged deal. So the key is to be aware of this relationship, to be aware of these pitfalls, and to not allow them to stop the flow of good in our lives. To really take the time to look at our experience of sadness, to feel it, to look at it, and to see what is underneath it. If what is underneath it is one of those trios like guilt or blame or shame, or perhaps all of them all acting at once, then that is where we want to direct our healing. The experience of sadness will wash over us and pass when we really look at what's underneath it. Perhaps a pause in our flow is good for reflection and for course correction. But the bottom line is that getting stuck is never the answer. Always we need to fully feel our sadness, and sometimes we just need to let the sting of the situation subside a little bit so that we are able to actually find the lesson that's there in there, so that we can grow and we can evolve and we can change. Sadness is a common and natural emotion that we all experience. The global health pandemic that claimed the lives of thousands of people, accompanied by other extreme social situations, is a cause for sadness. The tragic and senseless killing of children and others is a cause for sadness. The devastation caused to Mother Earth and the environment and other sentient beings is a cause for sadness. Situations in our own personal lives are often fraught with reasons for sadness. Now, the invitation is to take all of these things into account, all of them into account, and apply love. Maybe it's that steady drip, drip, drip. But to apply love as a soothing and healing balm. Love cures all things. Just like a healing ointment that can soothe a wound, love can be a soothing balm for our sadness. Perhaps it's talking to a friend that will simply listen, while we cry and muddle through it. Perhaps it's a loved one or a spouse that will simply hold us and rub our back through the heartache and the pain. Perhaps it's a solo walk on the beach while silently listening to the sounds of the water soothe our soul. Or a walk in the woods when we let the silence of nature and the caress of the trees nurture our soul back into wholeness. Perhaps it's sinking into a favorite piece of music or literature that has the notes and the words that bring life to how we are feeling in that moment, in that situation. They bring life to it in a really meaningful way. I have a few songs that I can play like that. Perhaps it's immersing ourselves in an aromatic fragrance that heals and soothes the senses, or soaking in a hot tub of salted water to really remove the toxins and calm the body. Or perhaps it could be a combination of things that, when applied with that focus on love, will bring peace to our soul. Whatever our application of love, allowing it to be a soothing balm for our internal sadness can bring ease and grace to that space of distress. Teilhard de Chardin says, someday, after we have mastered the winds and the waves and the tides and gravity, we shall harness for God the energies of love. And then, for the second time in history, in the history of the world, humans will have discovered fire. There's so much that we can do as we navigate this space of sadness. We can allow ourselves to feel the feelings that accompany sadness so that we can process through them. We can do that inner work that's necessary. We can become more aware of the variations of sadness, variations that can include everything from mild disappointment to extreme despair and anguish. So we can become more aware of those different variations to discover how they actually show up for each of us individually and how they operate within our own lives, and to ultimately be able to ride the waves of those variations. Knowing this too shall pass. We can allow the lessons that we learned or have learned perhaps from experiencing sadness in our past to make our actions and our behaviors more productive. Things that won't cause guilt or shame or blame. And we can embrace a greater compassion and love for ourselves and others, knowing that both the high tides and the low tides are an integral part of everyone's journey, and that they both have gifts and lessons to offer each and every single one of us. I leave you with the words of Elsa Barker, who said, "Watch for the high tides of yourself and flow up with them. When the inevitable low tide comes, either rest or meditate. You cannot escape rhythm. You transcend it by working with it." And so it is. Thank you all so very much. I just invite everyone to close your outer eyes and to turn within for a moment of prayer. Let's anchor this talk, this moment in prayer. Truly returning to that space that was created by Marianne in her meditation and by Carol in her invocation. That beautiful space of the divine, that spark of God that is within each and every single one of us, that presence of peace, of joy, of creativity, of love. And to know that it is truly who and what we are. that we are connected to it in ways that can never, ever, ever be broken. That even when we cannot see the presence of God in our life in the moment, it is there. Everywhere at all times, in its fullness and in its wholeness, ready, willing, and able to give us the kingdom of heaven on earth. We are connected to it, and we are connected to each other through it. That golden thread of God stuff that weaves itself throughout all of life connects us to each other, again, in ways that can never be broken. We are one human family. There's actually really only one of us here. Only one thing ever going on. And it's from that place of unity that I speak these words about and for each of us today, individually and collectively, truly knowing that there is a way that we can live our lives like water. That presence within us, like a flow, like a river, can really soothe all things, can create an experience of love when perhaps there hadn't been one, can, through gentleness, be a soothing balm to all things and all people everywhere. And that truly it is us, up to us to bring forward that presence of the divine that is within us out into the world. And so I claim ease and grace for us around bringing it forward like water, to allow it to be that which enters a room before us, flowing around any resistance that there may be within us or in our environment. Truly knowing that there is nothing more powerful than the power and presence of the divine within us. And when we bring that forward, anything, I mean anything and everything is possible. And I know we can do it. We've all seen it perhaps a time or two in our own lives. But the more we say yes to being like water, the more and more people look at us and say, man, I want some of that. I want to be like that. I want my life to be like that. And they follow suit. And by us doing it, we give them a space to be that also. And I'm so grateful to know this truth and to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes. That my words are clothed in form, even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them with love and gratitude and full expectation of their manifestation, letting go and letting God be God. And I invite each of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves, for each other, for our community, for the community here at St. Francis Springs, and for the world, simply by saying, and so it is. And so it is. Amen. Thank you all. It is now time for our conscious giving. The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living is sustained by the giving of our time, talent, and treasure. This is the time every week when we offer our financial support to assist this community to continue to be a beacon of light and love and warmth for ourselves and for others. Together we affirm that the truth that today's offering lifts this spiritual community, prospers the one giving, and adds to the experience of sufficiency on the planet. So there are several ways that you can give, and they're on the screen right now. visit our website at www.trianglecsl.org. You can text the word give using the following number, 919-230-8445, or you can mail your gift to our office. Our new address is PO Box 4062, Cary, North Carolina, 27518. So I would love for you all to repeat our offering affirmation after me. I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life. That blesses and prospers my life. I give with gratitude, knowing that God is my source. And so it is. Thank you all so very much for your generosity. And now, please join me as we welcome back to the stage the incomparable, the wonderful, the amazing Miles and Letha Costin.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite waters is the cleansing, a nice cleansing rain. That's okay. We've got a lot of the other stuff, though, so we did not coordinate this before we decided to do this. But this is a song that Miles and I wrote a number of years ago, but it's called Wash Away. Get that out of Rain falls on busy streets, buried in umbrellas, no eyes meet. It's not different any other day. Race against the clock, contact could delay. I'm tired of this protective skin. Keeps you out and keeps me in. I wanna throw it to the wind and let the rain wash away. Wash away. Wash One drop of sorrow hits my shoulder. There's no time to look it over. Maybe I'll get to it tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't show. The feeling starts to grow. Grief gathers like a thunderhead, hovering as darkness spreads. But I'm not afraid of getting wet, so let the rain wash away. Wash away. Let it wash away. Wash away.
fantastic. I don't know about you guys at home, but we in here have been moving and grooving in that song. Thank you guys so much. So beautiful. So wonderful. Okay, so if anyone would like prayer, please go to our website at trianglecsl.org. On the homepage, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner. Click on that button and fill in the request form, and we will get that prayer, and all of our ministers and practitioners will be praying with you. If anyone would like to dedicate a flower dedication, please contact Heather Abbott at info@trianglecsl.org or Reverend Dusty at dustyrippelmeyer@yahoo.com. Okay, mark your calendars and join us for a TCSL movie night on Friday evening, June 10th at 6:30. We are going to be watching the movie Encanto. Encanto is a 2021 American computer animated musical film by Walt Disney. You guys have got to have heard of it. It's full of magic and family, and it's set in Colombia, and it has music by my main man, Lin-Manuel Miranda, so you don't want to miss it. The evening will be at the Lodge at Crossroads, 2000 Brisbane Woods Way, Cary, North Carolina. Once again, contact Heather at info@tcsl.org. Yes, if you want to get one of the limited spaces. We hope to see you there. Also, once again, we will be having a vendor table at the 10th annual Out Raleigh celebration on Saturday, June 25th. So we're looking for volunteers to support us in that. We love to have that ability to have conversations with that community. So we need set up at 8, and then the event begins at 11 and lasts through 6. So if you are interested in assisting us just for even for an hour, once again, contact info@trianglecsl.org. We would love to have you join us. Okay, now we're going to do our May affirmation for the last time. This is your last opportunity, so give it all you got. Get up, because it's all about energy. And this is a call and response, so I'll go first, and then you will repeat. A variety of emotions serve to add spice to my life.
A variety of emotions serve to add spice to my life.
I commit to leaning into them and learning from them.
I commit to leaning into them and learning from them.
I face my fears and allow faith to lead the way.
I face my fears and allow faith to lead the way.
While anger can be like a hurricane, I know that in the eye of the storm, there is peace.
While anger can be like a hurricane, I know that in the eye of the storm there is peace.
Therefore, I can find calm waters in the midst of the turbulence.
Therefore, I can find calm waters in the midst of the turbulence.
Sadness is a primary emotion that we all feel at some point or another.
Sadness is a primary emotion that we all feel at some point or another.
I surrender and allow this sadness to wash over me and pass.
I surrender and allow the sadness to wash over me and pass.
The experience of my life is an inside job, and it starts with me.
The experience of my life is an inside job, and it starts with me.
I am blessed and grateful for my emotions and what they bring to my life.
I am blessed and grateful for my emotions and what they bring to my life.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Okay, close your eyes one more time as I dive into that pool within, that pool of divine love and spiritual law. And it just feels so good. And because we are all one, I know that that is true of you too. I know that this coming week, this coming month, that we are all uplifted by that high tide that we are feeling on the crest of this service and of this weekend. And that we have that vibration going out to the world, uplifting everyone with our love and with our spirit. And it takes us that much closer to our goal of a world that works for everyone. So knowing that this is the truth, knowing that this is our commitment, our belief, our knowing of what is to come, I simply turn it over to the law that always says yes. and ask you to join me in saying, and so it is. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you all for joining us this morning and for participating in this service from the beautiful St. Francis Springs Prayer Center. And I will tell you, as a shameless plug, next year's, get this on your calendar now because you really want to be here. It is an amazing place. This is an amazing weekend. I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding right now, and you don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. So it's going to be the first weekend in May 2023. So please put that on your calendar. I'm now going to tell everyone here in this room to go down for brunch. And I wish I could be telling you the same, but next year. I love you all. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.